Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Kathryn Hecht and I'm the Executive Director of the Alexander Valley Film Society here in Northern California. And welcome to Focus On. Today we're talking to Nicco Annan, a former classmate of mine from Purchase College and the star of P-Valley on the Starz network. And this is a real fun moment for me. I've been a fan of Nicco's for more than 25 years now, and to have this body of work now that everybody else gets to look at, and just a dazzling human being to come into the studio with us today. Of all the interviews we've done this year, sometimes we've heard, wow, you seem to really like this actor, you really like this director, or talk to this person. And it's just such a thrill to have someone come into the studio who I have known since we were kids, who I have, again, been dazzled by, but to also care about someone so deeply and to be so utterly proud of their success. So without further ado, I want to thank everyone for being here today, all of the sponsors and donors who have made this year possible for us to get together like this, not how we envisioned or wanted 2020 to turn out, but at least we have the time and the opportunity to come together in these special little ways. So please welcome my friend and star, Nicco Annan. Hello!
Hello.
Oh my God.
Congratulations to you. This is so awesome for this platform and all that you're doing. And thank you to the sponsors. I mean, I don't know everybody by name, but I will say thank you because I think it's so important that, that we are all changing and adapting, and making it happen. So I think it's really dope and fun actually to see how the creative minds are working still in this period. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Congratulations.
thank you for saying so. Thank you for saying so.
I mean it.
Well, and thank you for taking the time to be here. I feel so lucky. I feel like we've plucked you out of your busy schedule for a few minutes to chat today.
It's all good. Always make time for family, baby.
Oh, Nicco, gosh, I'm gushing all over, and there's so much I want to talk to you about. First and foremost, how are you? And where are you? Down in LA right now?
Yeah. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm on the West Coast, but my family is still back home in Michigan because I was born and raised Midwest baby. And then went east when we met in college, at 18.
Little baby.
little babies,
Little babies.
Now I got a little more seasoning, slow seasoning, but but yeah, but I'm well. My family is doing good, I was just saying, my father, he just came back home from a surgery and he is safe and all is well. My mom is doing good. Yeah. My mom is doing good. And they too are becoming accustomed to, the Instacart coming to them as opposed to them having to go to grocery stores. It's becoming a little bit too much. I'm like, am I enabling you? But it's cool. I want them to stay safe. So it's all good.
Well, did you have to have the conversation with your folks that I had with my mother, which was basically, Ma, you can't go outside anymore. You can't go shopping. You really have to stay home.
Yeah. My mom, she has some pre-existing conditions, so it was a little hard for her. It wasn't hard. I would say it was more frustrating for her than it was for me, because for me, to be honest, you get used to the downtime, or you look forward to the downtime in between projects, whether you're on the hustle wanting more to do, or you're doing something and you want a break. It's like we can never have it just enough. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm enjoying this downtime, and she's like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm working. And for her, it took a long time to kind of understand that we are moving in a virtual platform, and in a lot of ways, it makes you become more busy because more people have access to you, and you also want to keep the visibility. You want to continue your network. And on a weird level, Catherine, it kind of feels like, oh, I'm home, or I'm here. I went to the college or whatever for Airbnb for 2 weeks to kind of change my environment to refresh, you know, but you still are working. It's hard to, it's for me to even like reprogram. It's like, oh no, this is work. I'm not just chilling.
When did Pea Valley debut? Your
P-Valley
show.
debuted July 12th of this year,
Yeah.
of 2020, July 12th, 2020.
And was it on schedule or had it been
To
delayed from COVID?
It was delayed because of COVID. We were originally supposed to air, I think, if I'm not mistaken, like in February or
Okay.
something like that. But then there was some programming things because production started to shut down and things like that, even early on, or catch wind. So what happened was they had split our lead-in show and sister show on the network Power. They split their last season, their final season. They split that up into two, and so then they wanted to air us after the final second half of Power, and that's what happened. So we kind of, it's all divine order. It's all divine order, And then after we finished and had our finale, then Power Ghost 2 on Stars came out. So the sequel. So it's all in the family, and things happened the way they're supposed to because we were in the pandemic and we were home, and the people got a taste to come outside of their homes and come to the club.
Boy,
And travel to
howdy.
come down south. Yeah.
How the viewership has been off the hook, hasn't it?
We are so blessed. So blessed. I can't say that I'm surprised, to be honest with you, though, because when I read the script and did the play, I had the blessing to be able to do this as a play at Mixed Blood Theater. In 2015. But even before that, in 2009, is when I first read the first 4 pages of the script. And that was just literally in the playwright's home. She had a series that was called Black Mondays, and it was a group of artists, writers predominantly, and some invited actors that would come over to her apartment because she was a writer over at the Lark Theater in New York City. So it was a writing program, but it was all about fostering connections for writers to tell different and nuanced stories. And Black Mondays was because the theater is black on Monday,
Yeah.
or dark, or it's dark. But she's black, and then I'm black, and so she called it Black Mondays. So and
That's good.
started reading there, and then in 2015, Mixed Blood Theater in Minneapolis produced the theater, and it was the only production of the stage play, which was called Pea Valley at the time. Uh-huh.
It was the
And then mhm, that was the
oh,
only full production we did. There were several iterations of workshop productions. They did a production, with actors at the Lark Theater and in New York a
mhm.
couple of times. Then the Hip Hop Theater Festival came on board and partnered with the Lark, and they wanted to do the show with dancers because
Huh.
so they did it with traditional pole dancers that could act, and they wanted to see what that would be like, And Katori was just very adamant that this is a story, even though it takes place in a strip club, called the Pank, Pynk, but it was mostly about, it's predominantly, yes,
I
yes,
have
come on,
my background.
ambiance. But it mostly being about the people, these women and marginalized members of society, and giving them voice, and yeah, taking them from the little cage to the pedestal so their stories can be told.
Oh my gosh, Nicco, I want to dig into that a little bit because I cannot remember the last time I've watched a show with this much thematic juice stuff
Mm.
into it. There is so much going on here. But before we get to that, I want to ask you a little bit about your career because it sounds like when did you come out to LA?
I came out to LA in 2013, and I had that moment because it's been 7 years. It's been 7 years that I have been here, and I left after we graduated. I just moved down to Brooklyn, from Purchase, and just continued the hustle. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And just was grinding and grinding and grinding. I'll say I was blessed to be able to use all of my gifts. I always say don't bury any of your gifts, use them. So when I wasn't able to find like a job in theater doing a straight play, meaning a play without music, I would turn and then I would open up backstage and go and audition for Hairspray on Broadway or for Ragtime and Lion King and all of those things. And I had success. I found a lot of traction in that because I can dance. I trained as a dancer as a child, and a choreographer early in my career. And I always kept that going while I was acting. In the conservatory, they're like, you can't do anything outside of acting. You have to stay in this box. And I was like, okay. So I always made sure that my stuff was on point, within our program. But I did, what was that show? Night Court or Night School. I went to night school basically with the dancers because I would go and I would like choreograph things with them, or my friends in the program, they would go over like the homework that they had or assignments that they had from composition class, and so I was basically doing like a dual major on the
Yeah.
fly, and it's been a blessing because when I didn't get the straight plays, I would go and I would do a musical. In the
Hmm.
musical world, when they wouldn't want to see me because I didn't have a traditional dancer's body, I've
Hmm.
never been this big, and I've never had like, I always tell people I don't have cuts, I have curves, you know. So, and I own them and I love them.
Yes, you
So,
do.
that was a process. That was a process, but you dib and dab. And so I just did that and made my way.
And when you came to LA, was it a big leap of faith?
I guess for some it will say. For me, I was in New York, Catherine, and I was doing, off Broadway stuff, and I was doing like theater festivals, things just to be creative, to get my voice out there, to network with other writers and directors and other actors. It really did build my network, and it refined my artistic taste, or my palette, so to speak.
Hmm.
And I came out here with no job. I came out here with no agent. I came out here with no project in sight. I came out here because I said, oh, I don't want to be 60 years old doing this.
Mm.
Not that anything was wrong with it, but I
Hmm.
knew for myself, I saw something more. And it wasn't what I saw, that the impetus that made me move. It wasn't a show, a play, a film. It was literally my life. I was just like, oh, this New York hustle is one thing, and I love it. I grew up in Detroit. I'm a city boy, at heart, but I wanted a different ease. I wanted some sunshine. I did. I tell you what one of the transitioning things was I came out here, I was choreographing with my business partner, Rhapsody James, a
Hmm.
project with her, and it went so well. It was such a huge success. Um, and I was sitting down having lunch, a brunch rather, at the Four Seasons, because you can go. I wasn't staying there. Be very clear. I went there for the buffet brunch, and I was just sitting and I was just looking at the palm trees and the street,
Hmm.
and I was like, it's October,
Yeah.
and the weather was nice, and we were sitting outside, and I was like, I could do this. This I could do at 60. This I could see 80 and on, you know what I'm saying, in this kind of environment. I couldn't see it still headed for the train, running for, for the subway
Hmm.
and up the stairs
Hmm.
and all the things. Again,
Yep.
it wasn't anything wrong with it. It actually really textured me,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that I did that in my early 20s. And then it was just like, okay, all right, before you hit 40, let's get on out here to LA.
Gosh, I identify with a lot of that. A lot of that. So then bring us up to speed. So We shared with our viewers and our social media the great Variety article that got into some of the nuance, nitty gritty about Uncle Clifford. This is Nicco's role in Pea Valley, and the origin story a little bit. But I find it fascinating that you return to that hustle to win this role. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the New York thing again, that hustle, it helps you. It helps you so much. When I first got here, this is even before P Valley. That was crazy. I remember going to a casting director's office. I don't remember the casting director, but they were over in Los Feliz, and I went. Yes, exactly. I was just like, oh, there's the casting director. Okay, let me just go and introduce myself. I just was
Uh-huh.
waiting to go for a drop off box, to drop off headshot and resume. And the woman looked at me and I said, hi, where's your drop off box? I introduced myself and asked what, and she was like, what? And I was like, oh, I'm just here to drop off my headshot and resume to acquaint you guys with me. And they were like, we don't have a drop off box. Where are you from? And I was like, New York. And she was like, oh, we don't do that here. And I was just like, oh,
Hmm.
okay, okay. And I told her, I said, well, since I'm here you go, but thank you,
Good for
no
you.
trouble, da da da. I left it there on her desk. Nothing came of it that I know of. Maybe now she'll call.
Yeah.
But I literally still we did the play, and when it came around to doing the TV show, um, I still had to audition.
Hmm.
I still had to audition, and I'll be honest with you. At the time, I did not think that was foreign. I did not think that there was something wrong with that, even though I had originated this role and I had played her on stage because Uncle Clifford does identify with the she and her pronouns.
Hmm.
Um, but I was more so just, I was hungry, I think a lot of us as a cast, we were hungry, because you have a lot of newer faces that a lot of people may not have known, but we have been working and hustling in a long time. And there's a great handful of us that actually do come from the world of theater.
Hmm.
So, members of your audience that are writers, that are, Katori Hall herself, the showrunner, transitioned from theater to TV. There's a lot of, I think because of content and in the film and television world, there's so many different platforms for it. And I think that people are hungry for heart and true stories. And in that, you're going to get the theater, so
Yeah.
a lot of writers are transitioning, but you have to get your start somewhere. So anyway, so they said that I had to, they wanted me to audition, and I was like, okay, great, fine. um I went in and I auditioned. I had one, I went to a producer session essentially, as opposed to a pre-screening.
Okay.
Um, and then after that, I had to come back for a screen test.
Hmm.
And at the screen test was Katori. That was the first time that I had seen her in the room, and Patrick Ian Polk, Kalia Neal, and two people from Starz. Yeah. So it was like a whole panel of people. And I just came in, I did my thing. But one of the things that I will say is because I had the years under my belt of knowing Uncle Clifford's skin, and having been an actor of, I guess, like I said, a non-traditional size, and I say that because, I know that I'm not, obese or like just really big. I'm not the nutty professor or anything like that. But in the time in which I was coming up and in the time in which I was rolling out, there were strong stipulations that were going on. When I graduated from Purchase, the photographer, I had grew my beard, and it was a thing that you could not have facial hair in headshots. It was an unknown, and especially for a black man. You were perceived at that time as much more aggressive, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
6'2", I'm dark skinned, and then to have a beard, they were like, oh, that's too much, that's too threatening. It was so strange. And then now I'm like, and now I have pink hair and a beard, and you love me. You so it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're damned if you lose, damned if you don't, So yep.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Nicco, I think that is when I think back to our school days, and I use that word dazzling so deliberately because I remember feeling just a light from you, and we were pups, we were all pups, and
Mm-hmm.
it was
Yeah.
before most of our brains had finished developing, and all
That
the good
part.
stuff and bad stuff that comes with that. But
Yeah.
I think it's so telling to hear you say you knew Uncle Clifford's skin, but you have this lived experience that you bring to this now, which includes all of that stuff, whether you call it experience, baggage, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it really you just inhabit this character with such a gravitas, but that same playful, um, funny, smart, funny sense of humor. And that was actually one of the things I wanted to talk to you today was the adaptation and the process of
Mm-hmm.
the play to the show, because I really am curious about your relationship to the material as it evolved, right? So
Okay.
here thematically, here are some of the things I have taken from the series. First of all, I just got chills. How amazing it is to have a predominantly, pretty much an all black cast, um, with material written and, from what I can tell, produced and directed by people of color. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Reparations, gender norms, the complicated relationship between occupation in the South and racism,
Mm-hmm.
the family you choose versus the family you're born into, trauma, a woman's agency over her body, the over sexualization
Mm-hmm.
of young people. I mean, it just goes on and on. And so here you are playing the centerpiece of this story, which is kind of the hub for all these spokes.
Mm-hmm.
What has changed for you in between the play and now the show, leaving out the noise of the public response? But as an artist in there, how did things shift from stage to screen?
Okay. Great. First of all, you got all them themes, and I love it. You so on point with it. I knew you was so smart.
You know.
um, well, the protagonist for the story has always been the Pink, the actual club itself. You
Cool.
know,
Okay.
um, but from the stage to the screen, the it has expanded so because you get to see these characters outside of the club.
Mm.
So at in the play version, it was everything took place inside the club, inside the Pink, in our different rooms. It was all still in the club, and we had live pole dancing every night. We had 3 poles on stage, so and we did pole dance. We had training just like we had for the screen show, for the TV show, not as much, but that was still there. So there was that difference. But honestly, for me as an actor and playing Uncle Clifford, one of the main differences was the intimacy.
Mm.
In the theater, there was a level of projection that has to, you have to reach the back row, you have to reach, the balcony. I still had to technically, because there would be poles on the stage. There would be sometimes you would be doing a whole monologue or a soliloquy, and women are dancing behind you, and that just to me it adds to the elegance of it, the depth of the nuance, because you get all these, dazzling juxtapositions.
Yeah.
Um, on screen, I knew that I did not have to project. So there was more, it was the space for the intimacy, for the camera to come in, there was less that you had to do. I knew that that was an opportunity for people who do not have Uncle Cliffords in their life, for people who do not have people or haven't been exposed to people that may be gender fluid or non-conforming or non-binary, however they choose to identify, that you could still see the humanity. I wanted to definitely, we had in the same thread of the family bond and everything not being about trauma,
Mm-hmm.
exists, because I know I'm a gay man, been gay all of my life, but I have relationships, solid, fruitful, healthy relationships with members of the straight community and cis heterosexual men of all races. Um, so I thought that it was just so important to be able to show that as well. So I really leaned into that as an actor when we were on screen, because we have told the story of the trauma. You have seen,
Yes.
the abuse. You have seen the neglect. It does happen. It is
Sure.
something that is very real. But I also believe that if you don't see how cohabitation can exist, that
Mm-hmm.
representation is just as real. I get more, I would say a little bit more, to be honest. I was going to say more just as much, but I will say a little bit more from straight men that have that share their reactions with me from the show, in a way of speaking to their healing, speaking to their enlightenment, speaking to the
Mm-hmm.
fact that oh, I really was ignorant, or yo, you kind of like scare me on the show, and it's like, how, big man, how are you scared? Mr. Hyper Masculine, how are you scared of Uncle Clifford? What are you scared of Uncle Clifford for? You just do all these things, and I'm like, oh, because you can't define her. You know what I mean? But yet you identify with her, and yet she's still so different from you. So I just think that the conundrum that some people say that Uncle Clifford is, I'm like, that's who we all are. Whether you are male, female, or however you identify along that spectrum, with your identity or sexuality, it is all about who you are. Asking people, how do you identify? Whether that is she, her, whether that is they, them, him, they, whatever combination, that little bit of consideration, to me, in my opinion, is what, like, Uncle Clifford kind of represents. There is no blanket statement for everybody, regardless of race, regardless of region. Just ask the person, how are
Yeah.
you, or what is your name, or that is something that I just really took from working on the piece, you know.
Yeah, and Nicco, do you think that? Well, let me pause for a second, because I have referred to the series as subversive, and I'm not sure if I think that's true or not in this moment. The reason I'm doubting myself, and I'm wondering your thoughts on this, I think that placing characters in a strip club is
Hmm.
one thing, but to place uh, people of color in a strip club, we get the double whammy of stereotype. And to me,
Hmm.
why it's subversive in a positive way is because there's more human story going on. I mean, this is it. I think it's important of where it's set and who is in the story, but the
Hmm.
the humanity and having stories about people of color in their true identities and not as victims of trauma and abuse all the time, right? But
Hmm.
I would have called it subversive in that way, in a good way. Is that something you agree with or disagree with?
I agree. I totally agree. Even if you look at the production design, there's so many subtle things. I love. I'm blessed to be able to work on the show because I love every aspect of the show. So if you take, like, for example, the Paradise Room.
Mm-hmm.
The Paradise Room is a room that, if you're just coming to work at the Pink, you don't really know what goes on in this room because it's
Yeah.
expected. It costs a little extra to be in this room, to have all of your fantasies fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
But your fantasies are subversive, because if you look on the production design was Jeff Pratt Gordon, he and his team, Chef's Kiss. But there's wallpaper all over the wall,
Uh-huh.
and this wallpaper is called toile. The design is called toile. And
Okay.
toile is basically, it's these it's like a textured, almost little velvety, little pictures that are the same pictures all over. And these are pictures actually of the cotton fields. And you have in these pictures,
Oh my
yes.
God.
So you have on these pictures, you have all of these people picking barrels of cotton. Now, and you have slave masters in the pictures with people picking the cotton. What has
Oh,
happened is that on top of that, he laced the silhouettes of the women dancing. You have the
right.
women bodies. Some of them are upside down, subverted. Some of them are all in different dance poses and things like that on the pole, but they all have shackles on their necks as those people in the cotton fields, but the chain is broken. So it all is the room in and of itself is about subverting what your idea of feminine power and
Yeah.
what being a woman really is like. So that's why Corbin gets beat in that room, because he's trying to work through his own guilt for
Yeah.
being half white and half black, you know what I'm saying? And what that's like. There are a lot of things that happen in the show. Everything is based on a theme and a real and true intention and thought behind it. Sometimes I think that we do things in life, people like, oh, there was a sermon one time that the pastor, he was talking about, oh, this man used to streak and he would see them on the highway and he would flash people, and the whole church was like, oh no, oh my God. And they were laughing. And he said, he used to be a deacon. Then the whole church was like, oh no. And he said, why are y'all acting like people that are deacons aren't real people and don't have real issues?
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
he said, when he talked to that man, he had the conversation, and the man said, this makes me feel like when my mother saw me. My mother was the only person who validated my existence. So when I
Mm,
flash people, people see me. They don't just walk past me. They don't just, and I was like, wow. So there's such a psychological thing that goes on behind why human behavior, every woman that is getting up on that pole, woman or man, it's not always about trauma. Some it's an unfortunate situation, but some are doing it because they had to run away. They don't have any other means to make money and a living for themselves. Some are doing it because they love their bodies and they love the expression of it. Some are doing it to get away, to escape mentally from
mm,
something else. And
mhm.
so even the theme of the show, climbing up the pole just to get out the bottom,
Yeah.
and that bottom is life, and the pole is basically in our world of P-Valley, the pole, it represents the metaphor of life. Sometimes you got to climb up what looks like you may be in the bottom, in the depths of it all, but
Mhm.
you come up, rising feels like falling, and falling feels like rising.
Okay. Mind blown. And honestly, Nicco, I'm not sure I would have gravitated to the show had you not been in it.
Mhm.
And so I think that I really want to hammer home for the folks who are watching us today who may not have checked out the show already. It is worth it. Go get that free trial of Starz and bang out a couple of episodes and see the kind of creativity that's at work there. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up one of my favorite moments. All of my favorite moments are you, but I treasure that moment in the first episode where Mercedes is at the top of the pole and the soundtrack drops away and all you hear is her bumping and grinding, like the effort in her
Yes.
body and the strength and her power. I have chills. I mean, it's so powerful.
You gave me some actually too. Actually, just
So
reliving
good.
it.
Well, listen, I want to ask you one more question because you actually just kind of touched on it. I have always known you to be a man of great faith. And
Mm-hmm.
as I have, we've kept in touch via social media. Calais is somebody that I have just admired and loved and rooted for as well over the years. And there are few of you from your class at Purchase that have just hit it out of the park. And so to watch y'all from afar, and pick up, the public pieces that you're willing to share with people. And your faith is something that you are so open about. And I wanted to talk to you both about that, how your gratitude and your faithfulness seem to propel you in a way that's just like, boom. It's the same razzle dazzle from when we were kids. And that must have been what that was. But then I also want to know how that also relates to what you just said and how this work is either informed by that or the other way around, because you've opened up your heart and soul to these characters, and there could be some tensions there, according to what I understand of Christianity and those kinds of things. And so I just wanted to hear from you about that.
Like you're talking about like Christianity and then being gay or playing a character that's non-binary. Is that what you're talking about?
Not so much that, but I think maybe some of the well, I guess that, but maybe like what we see in the show, the juxtaposition between Mercedes and her mother. We get that interesting view, which is not quite clear to me yet, all the pieces of that. But well, for instance, having a graphic sexual scene, and being a man of faith, is this something that you would show your parents? Is it something that you would share? That kind of thing.
Gotcha. I think, yes, is the short answer to that. Yes, my parents have seen it. I told them about it before they saw it. Even for like, my father, he was good. He was like, well, maybe, I had to look away at some things, I had to look but to me,
your dad.
Yeah, exactly. To me, and I told him, I was like, that doesn't offend me. And I don't think that is anything that equates to faith or the Christianity component, because I'm your child. You don't necessarily want to see your child having sex when they are married and they have 3 kids, or, just like we don't want to imagine necessarily our parents having sex, it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I will say is that in this work, in this world, I didn't feel that, because it felt like embracing all that God created, and I think that because we were so encouraged to be ourselves, in terms of when we shot the pilot, Kathryn, we were up on stage. It was our first time all like meeting each other, because everyone had not met each other. And it was just a core of us because we did what was called a pilot presentation. So we only had, I think it was like 15 to 18 minutes of the concept of the show that we put together. And so it was just the 4 girls and myself and Lil Murder. And we were all on set like, all right, y'all, we about to do it. This is us. Here we go. And we said, we are half naked up here. There's a lot that's exposed, but there's no better way to be truthful. You are stripped of all of your things, literally and physically, So it was important that what you see, you're not objectifying breasts or objectifying penises or asses. It is all about, this is the human body, and that lends into the female gaze, is what we call it on the show, because traditionally when you would see pole dancers or strippers, you just kind of see them writhing, and and that's all that it is, and that's a style. In the South and in traditionally Black strip clubs, the dancing is just much more athletic, and the women, you see the women's strength and their ease. And every dancer has a different style. Miss Mississippi's style of dance is very different from Mercedes, and
Yeah.
Mercedes is different from Gidget's. Gidget's is all about legs, and that's why everybody like, get them Gidget with them pretty ass legs, because she
Yeah.
uses her legs a lot. She also used to be a cheerleader and a gymnast at Ole Miss. So like the through lines of it all. And then you got Autumn Night, a woman that's just coming in. Like honestly, that character is like the proxy in the story,
Mm.
because a lot of women are taking pole classes now just for the fitness, and they're experiencing what that's like. So just like Autumn Night, you're coming into the world and you're seeing,
Yeah.
oh, this is like a Cirque du Soleil. Let me do the little bit that I learned. Okay, this is what I learned. So that's why she's dancing the way that she does and doesn't dance like Mercedes. So everything is just so nuanced, and it just makes sense to be able to embrace all of your curves, your stretch marks, every dimple, because that's what the body does.
Right.
Period. That's what the body does. And these women have children. We should see a little bit of the belly. We should see, you should see the things. It just also was very important, being a full figured man myself, that Uncle Clifford was not chiseled and like ripped like some model. It's like, no, we are in the South. There's so much that goes on to it. We'll be here forever if we talk about that. But
Yeah.
the region really dictates a lot of the story, because a lot of people in the South, whether they are white, black, Mexican, Filipino, whatever, you don't have as much access to things as you would in New York, or as much
Yep.
as you do here in LA. So to be able to really talk about that changes the mindset and the construct that the story has. So for me, spiritual life was always a part of that, because just like Patrice, Mercedes' mom, she's in a church and she's battling misogyny in the church the
Mhm.
same way Mercedes is battling it in the world of the strip club.
Yep.
Um, and I feel like the character, Uncle Clifford, that I play, basically stands in the door, stands in the gap for those marginalized communities, for the women, for the gays, for the lesbians, for the non-binary. And the concept of the character came from, what if a person accepts all that they are, all of their femininity and all of their masculinity, without apology? To me, that says love. And that is what I know God to be about. So it seems in a weird way very religious for me as the actor playing it. It's
Mhm.
not me. It is literally about, okay, if this is where you are. Even the kid that's the DJ in the club, he's a 16-year-old DJing in the club. And most people are like, oh my God, that's crazy, crazy. But they don't realize that in real strip clubs, most of the DJs are very young, because
Huh.
they have their finger on what's hot, what's popping, you
Totally.
know, and they love music so much. So they do research, to do like Dr. Dre would go back in time, DJ Cassidy, all of these big DJs came out of strip clubs, because as an artist, if you then get your song played in the strip club and the dancers go off to it, the crowd, they hype it
Wow.
up and it becomes a whole thing. So the strip club culture in the South really is like this ecosystem that
Mhm.
a lot of people haven't been able to tap into or really know about if you don't go. So yeah,
And
it's
so
just like church.
yeah, well, it pretty much, but then it sounds like what you just explained. If it's all about love, that also seems to be, at least what I have gleaned from you in this public way, that seems to be your modus operandi as a person. All about
Yeah.
love, all about space and acceptance and forgiveness. And so,
Hmm.
can you? The last thing I want to talk to you about, I by the way, there's no date set for the second season, right? Or is there?
No, not at this
Oh,
time. We'll be going back to work soon, but
okay.
everybody will be able to come back to the Pank in 2021. That's
Okay,
what
good.
that's what I say.
Good, 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 good. Okay. So the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and by the way, thank you so much for taking this time. I could talk to you all day.
Oh,
Um,
it's totally fine.
but
Totally
I just
fine.
I I can't I don't know what it must feel like. I've never had this experience, but I am so thrilled and so proud that you truly have just become quite famous. And I I am kind of dying to know, after all this time, what it's been like for you.
To be in this moment right now.
Yes, to have so many people looking at you and pointing to you and saying, what he's doing is important. What he's doing matters.
It feels it I'm going to tell you, it does not feel any different than high school. So take that.
Okay.
And what I mean by that, again, I'm speaking about my lived experience.
Absolutely.
I'm not speaking about a general blanket theme of what this could be like. But for Nicco, I have been I don't want to say beaten down, but I have received no. I have had a lot of doors closed in my face or closed to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that has never stopped me for whatever crazy reason. It never stopped me. And I did not realize when I was going through it, when I was 22, and the director for Man of La Mancha told me, I can't cast you. This is the final round, but I'm going to cut you now, Nicco. And here I go. Why? He said, well, because, you're really big, you're going to distract from my lead. And well, that's his problem. That's not mine. Yeah, that's what I said. But here I am being my naivete combined with my training, because you knew that I wasn't just some kid rolling in off of the street. You could tell that you've been refined some kind of way, but I still had a lot of fire. I had a lot of fire, and everyone doesn't know how to deal with fire, and everyone doesn't know how to make space for that, and that's okay. So I say it feels like high school for me because I had that fire in high school, and I have that fire now today. I know how to quell that fire now, and I know how to use it in specific ways. But the people around are just they are reacting to something that I have always known. And I think because I've known it, I haven't had to show it. I never lived my life in a space of, I'm going to prove to you that I'm the bomb. I'm going to prove to you that I'm worthy. I've never sought their worthiness. It was literally this thing coming off. I'm going to tell you, the key to this for me has been the pandemic. I would tell the showrunner time and time again, I was like, oh, if it wasn't for this pandemic, I don't know if I would be ready. And she would be like, Nicco, shut up. What are you talking about? And for me, what I mean is that I have been able to have this in doses. This has been happening in waves, the very same way that I have gotten to know Uncle Clifford. If I had just gotten this script, I could see some of the pitfalls that others may have fallen into when you first did it. Do you understand what I mean?
I do.
I lived an experience. One of the pivotal moments when we were doing the play was when the director told me, she said, okay, we want to send you to go get your nails done. And I was like, for what? What are we doing? Oh, we want, to get your acrylics, to get your nails done. And I was like, are they coming off? And they were like, what do you mean? You need them for the show. Long story, try to make it shorter. I was like, oh, I'm not getting any nails. If you can't take them off for the performance, I won't get my nails done. And I'm like, but Nicco, that's the role. And I said, well, I want you to know that I am not, I live in New York. I was in New York, in Brooklyn, again, from Detroit. So I know how to handle myself on the street. But I was in St. Paul, Minneapolis. I don't know this area. I have to take public transportation to and from to the theater. I don't know the neighborhood. I don't know the climate, the temperature. So as a gay person, as an out person, and if I'm portraying a non-binary person or gender fluid person, there are there's a certain armor that you have to walk around with. One, this theater check is not providing enough money for that. That part. Two, just my safety, and having that moment and having to explain that to a straight woman,
Yeah.
it wasn't a bad thing. It was the right thing because it made me have to say, remember all that Uncle Clifford has to deal with. And so then when they wanted to shave my beard, and I was like, we're not shaving a beard. And they were like, well, you have to have, and I said, we are in Chucalissa, Mississippi. Chucalissa is a fictitious place, but it is a burial ground. Chucalissa, there's the Chucalissa Native American burial ground. And it means hope. The show means abandoned house, Chucalissa, a place of hope. And that concept, that just bruised. And I'm like, well, if I'm in the South and I have this hair and you talk about these nails and these outfits and things, but I run a strip club. This is not a gay club. This is not a non-binary gender fluid club. This is a straight up strip club. I still needed something that would show the patrons that would be in some point, extremely misogynistic, something to let them know, don't try me. I will still F you up. That's the boss in Uncle Clifford, the drill sergeant, and the design of it came from a backstory that, you'll find out, coming forth. But it was all of those little nuances. They gave me such, not even nuggets. They gave me whole meals to chew on as an actor and as an artist. So to be able to lace that in it was just there. It was just there.
Wow. Nicco, congratulations. Congratulations on the performance, the show, who you are, who you've matured into. Just congratulations on being a stellar human being and for having a beautiful body of work now for people everywhere to see.
Thank you.
It's so special for me too, and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm proud of you too. It's a sign. I take this, I say, and I'm very open about my testimony because I believe that it's many people out there that were in the same situation as me. You know what I mean? Whether they are Black and gay, whether they are white and straight, whether they are Ethiopian and fluid, whatever, everybody has something. But I believe that testimony is the way that you know that you're not alone. It's the way that you can relieve it off of yourself, and give it to your higher power and do what you got to do.
Absolutely. I mean? Oh, yeah. Just such. And thank you for sharing that with us too. I mean, for just taking the time and talking so intimately about some of the things that make you tick. That's also very special. Yeah. So please don't go anywhere. I'm going to close out the show, but I do want to talk to you for a second. But wave goodbye to the nice people.
I'm going to say goodbye. And also to all the filmmakers, where it's like your project is taken forever, or you didn't hear, you didn't make it into this festival, you didn't make it into that. We have to keep going. Sometimes people catch up to where you are as an artist, because your job as an artist, you live in a space that's it's a visionary. It's not always in the tangible and the right now. So it could be something that will be ready for the world to digest in 2 years. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for the Me Too movement, would we be here?
Totally.
Sorry. Who knows?
Yeah. So it's so true. And being a product of our own time too.
Yes.
All good. Nicco, thank you so much.
Baby, you are welcome. Thank you guys. I will see y'all again.
Yes. Sounds good. All right. Bye. And for the rest of you, thank you so much for tuning in today. What a special treat for us to be able to talk to someone so special and dazzling. And I hope that it brightens your holidays as much as it's brightened mine. I think this is going to be, I'm checking the calendar. Yeah, this is going to be the last show of ours for 2020. The puppy is now weighing in. And take good care of yourselves. It's been a rough year. We will see you in 2021 with a brand new vision, and can't wait to share it with all of you. So until then, stay safe, stay sane, and stay connected. Bye, everybody.